and 5 former Memphis police officers have been charged with murder and other crimes in the death of Tyre Nichols. The 29-year-old died 3 days after a confrontation with police during a traffic stop. Footage of the encounter is expected to be released Friday. For more on the Tyre Nichols case, I have Keith Taylor here with me. He's an adjunct assistant professor of law, police science, and criminal justice at John Jay College. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
What stands out to you in this case?
Certainly, we have not seen the video yet, but what the officials have said about the brutality of the situation, the senselessness of the officers, and really the helplessness and vulnerability of this young man really strikes out to me. And the pattern that we've seen over the country and historically of young men of color being in these very difficult situations in police encounters.
And yet we are more than 2 years since one of the most, I mean, the Floyd murder, changed the country, people thought.
Yes, although that change has to be reflected not just in individuals' attitudes or officers' attitudes. It has to be changed by federal legislation that addresses the issues of police corruption, of poor hiring practices, poor disciplinary practices, lack of diversity in departments, and policies that do not address issues such as routine traffic stops becoming deadly encounters.
What do you say, though, to people? I mean, is that for people who say George Floyd was murdered, everybody said things were going to change, and they haven't? This is the same story. Is it the same story, or is the fact that one of the things that happened in this case, at least, is that the officers are being charged? So, do you see, notwithstanding everything you just said, do you see anything at all that has changed since George Floyd's murder? Yes,
I see that the department in question, Memphis Police Department, has been very responsive and transparent. The DA's office has acted responsibly, and they are making certain that the officers are going to be charged appropriately and get their day in court. This should give confidence in the general public that the police department, the DA's office, the federal agencies that are involved in this are acting in a very responsive and appropriate manner, including the president weighing in on this matter.
And give people some insight, given your experience, I mean, as an officer, about how something like this could happen when, in this case, you had all of the officers were black and the victim is black, which is distinct from other cases that have become, unfortunately, so famous, infamous.
Brutality, excessive force has no color. It has no gender. It is a culture that grows when a department and agency fosters it, is not responsive to calls of corruption, does not act appropriately and quickly when when police officers continue to act in egregious and inappropriate ways, especially in minority and poor communities where they're less likely to get the scrutiny that they would in other areas.
And when you talk about corruption, I mean, then is this something that people should be asking questions about the chief in this case in Memphis?
I think that law enforcement, number one, the vast majority are professionals, and they do their job as they should. They do the job as best they can to help people and to save lives. However, what must be looked at from the executive level is what are they doing to address the issue of corruption from their police officers? What is the disciplinary process like? What do the procedures and policies do to speak to these issues and to let officers know what's appropriate and inappropriate, and then the follow-through?
We just a quick last question. Sure. Jeff Pegues reported about police departments across the country worried about what might happen in their communities when this footage is released. Do you have any guidance or advice for what departments should do in their communities?
Show what they're doing to proactively address the issue of police excessive force, police excessive violence. Show what they're doing to resolve the situation so that they can feel confident and trust their police officers to not brutalize them while enforcing the law.
Keith Taylor, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.